do you think we're kind of seeing a turn right now? You mentioned, for example, it's becoming more and more normal to not be a fan of inequality, let's say, to not be a big fan of the super rich. What do you think is causing that, and how significant do you think that is right now?
I think there's a sense that we failed. So hardly any politician stands up now and says that Britain's done really well, or we carry on along this route. And there was quite a lot of that in the past. There was George Osborne in 2015 said if we stuck with his economic plan, we'd be the richest country per capita by year 2030. Johnson, in his Raise the Nation speech, very similar. Keir Starmer said it, it's kind of, if you carry on with our plan, would be the best off. It's just sounding hollow and stale. People are slowly becoming aware that the average living standards are lower in the UK than in Europe before Brexit. So there's a sense of, I think, general failure. It gets reduced to Olympics for a few weeks when we tend to win a few medals because we're very good at sports that other people don't play that much, being a bit mean. And we put a lot of money into it with national pride. US, China, and us spend a lot of money on getting medals. My worry is I don't know in what direction it'll go. It's quite conceivable to see that Elon Musk's people might get bored with playing with Trump and say, what can we do with $50 million in the UK? Let's play a game, just a game. Can we take an election? There's ways in which they can do that. They can bring the money in, but it's not actually illegal if they channel it through. So that's one worry. There's other, Sterling could tank this summer. So many things could go wrong.
I feel like there's a lot of discussion around, this is maybe a slight tangent, but solutions being things like higher taxes on the rich people, right? Something Ollie and I were discussing a little bit before this interview was, how beneficial is it to say we need to increase taxes on the rich people, maybe especially in Britain? Some of the downsides we were discussing was this risk of flight. Once you start taxing rich people more, they will leave the country, maybe go to Dubai, go to places like Malta.
Really boring. Malta's all right, but how many years would you like to spend in Malta before you're old? Okay.
Point is, it's taking me back to the initial question about BMW, which is, are there these individuals that are really contributing to the economy? Is it even, let's say, a bad thing if they leave the country? Is that going to negatively affect the economy? And will they leave, I suppose?
There's been a lot of reports about how unlikely quite a lot are to leave because London's so sticky. But also about how little damage might be done by people who don't have a high income. They've got high wealth and they're non-dom at the moment. And to be non-dom, you have to have most of your financial interests not in the UK, so they're not already contributing. We've got a nice natural experiment in part of Britain, in Scotland, we are taxing people more. So somebody like me would be facing a 53% slightly higher tax rate on part of my salary. And that extra tax is being used to pay for the Scottish Child Credit, which means that no child in Scotland need go hungry or cold, unlike in England. Scotland has the lowest rate of child poverty in Britain. Scotland has the only areas in which child poverty is falling, right? So we're actually so it's the best evidence is something really being done somewhere and seeing what happens. And as yet, the university professors and hospital consultants are not fleeing Edinburgh and Glasgow and St Andrews and going, I can't stand Scotland.
Fair enough.
So we've actually got an example, and it's not me saying, look at Finland and Norway. It's saying it's happening. You also tend to get quite nice, very rich people in more equal countries. Again, this might annoy some people, but when somebody with a lot of money, my favourite example is always ABBA, the pop group, and why they decide to stay in Sweden despite having to pay high taxes. The rich in more equal countries tend to get involved in politics less, tend to manipulate less, tend to actually, they promote the idea of you pay more taxes because you're joining in the society. And ABBA's lovely. I wish we could do a proper study of this. They also tend to live longer and be happier on average. So the American equivalents to ABBA are mostly dead. Michael Jackson, you don't want to go to Neverland Ranch. You want to go to Stockholm.
Yeah. I guess part of the issue then, to look forward to solutions potentially. You mentioned some examples where higher taxation works, but a lot of the problem is about collective action. So for our listeners, that's basically organizing a set of individuals who have their own motives such that they can act together effectively. Now, a lot of the problem is, well, all these individuals have different beliefs, and it's very difficult to get everybody to align in that way. For example, a large portion of the population, we saw how well Reform did recently, believe that kind of immigration is the central problem. How can we look at getting around those collective action problems? Is it just a matter of collective consciousness raising, or?
Oh, no, it's learning from them. I suspect the very top of Reform are a very small number of people. The ones I know is a tiny number. I suspect the people who decided where they want those riots to happen, which happened last summer, and seeded the fee to say, this is the Holiday Inn we need to burn down. And, we almost have pogroms in Britain. When you look at the map, it's almost all in the north, apart from one small case in Bristol, and almost all in areas of the highest index of deprivation. So much so that it's like somebody went, where is the index of deprivation? Let's just rank it in an Excel spreadsheet. And so I see those kind of things as orchestrated by a small number of very dangerous people, and they stop and they start.
Those people who are maybe on those riots, they probably, there's a lot of them, right? And they maybe share in that sentiment.
Somebody has to book the coach to take them there.
Mm.
Somebody has to start off the tweets that, it was so unlike the 2011 London riots, which were much more organic when the shooting of a man, but then completely out of control. But I think we should be worried about, they were turned off and turned on. This is when Starmer just become Prime Minister.
Could you maybe just expand on that a little bit for our listeners? Because I know for me personally, for example, I didn't know about the level of organization that went into a lot of this for the recent riots.
So the people you saw on the, at the front fighting the police were generally men like me, but more bald. Was they didn't have less hair, might have been skinheads when they were young, as fat as me, if not fatter. Didn't really know what they're doing. There's a famous one, he throws the brick and it goes back and hits him in the very famous crotch. But they don't, a lot of egging on. The question is, who got them there? Who, and the pattern. If it just been one event, you couldn't make any assumptions, just one, you don't know. But the pattern of, and the starting and the stopping of it, you don't organically in communities angered by years of immigration suddenly start and stop. Like, this is my allegation, just my belief. I haven't seen it. And I do wish there'd been much more investigation into, people have been prosecuted for certain tweets, but I worried, and these were really serious set of riots. I mean, this is attempted murder, that's trying to set light to a hostel in which people are living, let alone arson. On the other hand, to give you the good, there's a group called 20's Plenty, which argued to get 20 miles an hour in. Most of Oxford's 20, all of Wales is 20, most villages around here were 20. I met 20's Plenty first when I was in Sheffield. It's 2 people, just 2. It's much better to have 2 people than 1, but 2 people can help make a city go 20 miles an hour. Rod King and Anna organised it nationally. That's Rod and Anna. That's 2 people. Possibly the most successful social movement in Britain in actually getting what it wants. 30 miles an hour signs becoming 20 mile an hour signs, huge effect on mortality rate.
Really? Big difference.
Huge difference. So you'd probably be okay if you're hit at 30 or 28. But a smaller child or an older person, they tend to live if hit at 20 because the physics of moving a ton of metal at that speed. And already we get more data because the 20s are coming. But nobody campaigns for their own street to go back up to 30. And all that happens, of course, and you have to be an idiot. You have to be an idiot not to see this. But at 20 miles an hour, you just take a little bit longer to get up to the traffic lights, which are red. It doesn't change.
So true.
It doesn't change journey times hardly at all. It just makes things more pleasant. But it's just shock. It feels like a massive imposition. Your freedom's been taken away. You can see it's perfectly safe to go at 30. Why are they making you go at 20? And of course, exactly the same argument could have been made from why can't we go to 40 or why can't we go to 50 for Oxford? You know, if I'm looking really carefully as I drive through Broad Street and turn. When I was young, there were cars on Cornmarket.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so when I went for a series of, you know, at one point we got rid of the cars in Cornmarket because it was full, and then we had buses and we had bus wars, Thatcher bought in competition. So there had to be lots of different bus companies. And what happened in Cornmarket is they all just ended up getting stuck and jammed. We know,
Right.
and now this street, sorry, I'm talking about Oxford, the street's pedestrianised.
Yeah.
But the next question is, what are we going to do when there are so many tourists that they stop moving? I mean,